Whoa, 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 don't throw those clothes in the bin. I'm going to tell you what you can do with them instead. Whether your clothes are brand new but you don't know the best place to sell them, or your clothes are worn to death but you don't know what to do with them. After watching this video, you're going to have all of the information that you need and you're going to know exactly what to do with them. This video is going to be packed with information, so sit back, chill and enjoy. Well, I hope you enjoy it anyway, and if you do, then please do leave the video a like. And now the introduction's out the way, let's get into the video. So let's start off with the clothes that are too worn to wear. There's holes everywhere, it's stained, it's rough. You get the idea. Well, in this case, these clothes are too far gone to sell, and they're too far gone to give to charity. But this doesn't mean you need to throw them in the bin. For example, you can turn them into rags to clean with, you can donate them to your local animal shelter, or you can use the fabric to create something new. But we'll get into that more in just a second. But what about the clothing that still has life left in them, but they just need a bit of TLC? Well, I've got not one, but 3 different methods that you can use to bring that clothing back to life again. So the first method is all about getting rid of those nasty little balls on your clothing. This is called pilling, and it happens when the fibers in your clothing break and then shrivel up and form these disgusting, horrible little balls. It can make your clothing look really tired and it can give off a bit of a messy look. But instead of throwing that piece of clothing away, get yourself a fabric shaver and you can shave away those pesky little balls in no time. Now, Philips do a pretty affordable fabric shaver for about £16, I think, and I'll link it down in the description below, but it works like a charm. But basically it has a rotating blade in it and you just skim it across the surface of your clothing and it just shaves away that excess material and leaves your clothing looking fresh in no time. Okay, but what about the clothing that's faded too much that you don't want to wear it anymore? Sometimes faded clothing can look good, but sometimes it just doesn't look great. Well, don't worry, you can get some clothing dye and re-dye it. Now, I've used the dye from a brand called Tailors in the past, mainly for my black jeans and black trousers that have faded, and it cost about £5 or £6, so that's a really good price to get something looking fresh again. It'll also save you having to replace that item of clothing, which would cost you a lot more to replace. Just a heads up though, these dyes work better on certain materials over others, so stuff like jeans and t-shirts they work really well with. But I've had a pair of like shiny, smooth trousers before, and it didn't work so well on them, because I think the dye just ran off them. They were a bit waterproof, so just check the product that you're trying to dye before buying these products. Or if you no longer like the way a piece of clothing fits, or it's torn, then do some DIY on it. Now, depending on how good you are at DIY and how good you are at sewing, then you can get really creative and create brand new pieces of clothing. But there's so many tutorials out there on YouTube that help you make new clothing out of old pieces, and the best thing about it is you end up with a really unique piece. But something really simple to do is just crop old clothing. Now, I've had jeans and t-shirts that have been too long for me that I've never worn, and all it took was me taking a pair of scissors to them, chopping off a bit of length, and now they're some of my favourite items to wear. The best thing about it is when you've got a t-shirt that's too big for you, and you cut some of the length off, then you get this really nice boxy and crop look, which is really in right now. Remember to always cut off less than you think though, because you can always take off more material, but you can't add it back on. Unless you're some kind of wizard, but I'm not. So I'm just sat here editing this video and I'm just about to head out to the tailors. I've got a pair of trousers that are too big for me and I need to get them adjusted. And it reminded me, how have you not mentioned taking your clothing to the tailors in this video? If you don't want to cut your clothing up yourself or you're not good at sewing like myself, take it to a tailor and they'll do a better job. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So what about the clothing that's in perfectly good condition, but you don't wear it anymore and you don't want to keep it for whatever reason? So firstly, if you're not in need of the money or you don't think you're going to get that much money for the piece of clothing that you want to get rid of, then donate it to charity. There's so many ways that you can do this, but the easiest way here in the UK is probably drop it off to your local charity shop or drop your clothing off to a clothing bank. You can normally find these in your supermarket car park. But don't just dump a load of unwearable, unclean clothing off because it makes it easier for you to clear out your house. Make sure you're donating decent stuff that's clean, that's going to help someone out. But if in doubt, then a quick Google search is going to tell you the best way in your local area to do this, so check on Google. Also, you can always pop into your local charity shop before taking anything in and just ask them what they need. And if you want to sell your clothing, then it's never been easier to do so. Of course, you can take it to a car boot or to a pop-up site somewhere, but the thing that I like to do is sell my clothing online. And the websites that I like to use the most is Depop and eBay, although I do most of my selling and buying on Depop these days. I just find these websites the easiest to use, but I'd always recommend that you check the seller or the buyer's rating before dealing with them. It's very important. If the seller or the buyer that you're dealing with has loads of top reviews, then you more than likely don't have anything to worry about. But if they've got a load of negative reviews or they don't have many reviews, then just be careful. I've been pretty lucky when it comes to Depop, but I have heard some horror stories, so just be careful out there. Unfortunately, you do have to pay a 10% commission on anything that you sell on these websites, but you are advertising your clothing on really popular platforms, so it is worth it in my opinion. There's also sites like Vinted, ASOS Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, Grailed and Etsy that I've used before, but I'll list some of the most popular options down in the description box. And just out of interest, what do you use to buy and sell your secondhand clothing? It'd be really interesting to hear what most people are using, so let us know in the comments. Unfortunately, when using these websites, sometimes your clothing won't sell, so it's a good idea to set yourself a deadline. And by that deadline, if you've already reduced the price and it's still not moving, then just donate it instead. Also, there's loads of stores out there these days, like COS for example, who are buying old pieces that you bought from them in the first place back off you and then sell it on for you. Each store offers different rewards, so some will offer you a commission and some will offer you in-store credit. And if you can't be bothered to sell your clothing as individual pieces, then there's companies out there who will buy your clothing in bulk. But just to warn you, this is not the best idea if you've got some expensive items, because they pay you by the weight, per kilo I think it is, and it's not very much per kilo. But this can be a really great option if you don't want to make multiple trips back and forth to the post office, or if you just want to make some quick space in your house. But to find a company that offer this service, head to Google and type in cash for clothes. These companies can be found in most cities and towns these days, so there should be one that comes up near you. There's so many ways these days that you can give new life to your old clothing that it can be a bit overwhelming, but hopefully this video has given you some ideas. Oh, and also, if I did forget anything, then do let me know down in the comments. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do leave it a like. If you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See you later.